Hey! Welcome to this video where I'm going to tell you how I would spend £20,000 in property. Now, I have done a number of strategies from sourcing property to doing rent-to-rent stuff, loads. And you know what? I've realized that having hindsight, if I could do things all over again, I would probably spend my money a little bit different to how I have spent my money, but there's always a future, right? So watch this video and find out how you can invest your money in property right now. And there's no better time than now. Stay tuned. This channel is perfect if you are new to property, just getting started, or wanting to take things to the next level. It's a brand new property channel, so if you're watching this video for the first time, don't know who I am, I'm just a regular old girl called Sabrina who's invested in property since 2013, doing a number of different strategies, and now I'm in South Wales, which is in the UK, purchasing property, renovating them and putting tenants in at the end, and then refinancing to get all that money out. So if you're interested in property, stay tuned because I got a lot of hints and tips that you can learn from, and I'm hoping that you can share something with me too. So with so many strategies to choose from, what one do you choose? You've got buy to sell, buy to let, buy to hold, which is the same as buy to let. I said that twice. Did you notice that? Service accommodation, rent to rent, property sourcing, you've got commercial developments, and there's so much to consider. It's like, where do I start, right? Did I mention HMOs? Yeah, HMOs too. But where you start depends on what time you have, what money you have, and how much effort you're willing to put in. And not just that, but how much do you know? You gotta know something before you get started, because if you're brand new and you're just gonna go and buy a house without knowing that you have to do research, you can get it in the wrong area and it will cost you a lot of money. And you do not want to make that mistake. So these are the things you've got to consider when you're going into property investment, particularly how much time you have and how much effort you have, because these things, when I tell you right now, property investment is a commitment. It's not a get in 1 year and get out. It's definitely not that. In fact, I think you've got to give yourself at least 5 years, commit. So if you decide that, yeah, you know what, property's for me, I'm going to try it, I'm going to give it a go, you need to commit at least 5 years of your life to before you quit. Yeah, 5 years, and not just 5 years of like you trying and you're working full-time or you're working part-time and you're trying to do a viewing 1 week and you miss a couple of months and you do it again. Not that kind of 5 years, because you're definitely not going to get results if you do that. I'm talking about real commitment, doing viewings, you know, setting targets. I'm a KPI girl, which means key performance indicators, and I love operating by key performance indicators because that means we've set a target. And that means we gotta hit that target. And if we haven't, then we gotta know why. And having that key performance indicator mindset and mentality in the way of managing myself has allowed me to realize why I'm not hitting goals and what I have to do to improve. Because if you set a goal to view 20 viewings a month and you're finding you're only managing to do 10, and you can see that because you're recording everything, then you can hold yourself accountable and say, right, why didn't I? And then you can be honest and say, well, you know what, Sabrina, you know you didn't look, or you know what, Samantha, you know you was not checking nothing, or you didn't put the viewings in, or didn't put the offers in. So I didn't put the viewings in. I'm making so much mistakes today. You didn't put the offers in, and so forth. So it allows you to really hold yourself accountable and manage yourself. And this is essential when you're in property, okay? So when you got this 20 grand, you got to hold yourself accountable, okay? That's why I'm not just diving into a strategy. There's a lot more before getting to deciding on what strategy you're going to do, because you've got to know yourself, right? Have to know yourself. And of course, if you want good results, you are going to have to put that time, the money, and the effort in. And the reason I say money, because even if you're not looking at this 20 grand, there is viewings that need to be done. There is stuff that needs to be done before you go forward. And if you're operating legitimately, which you need to, and I've done a video here about how to set up your property business before you get started. And that takes into consideration all the legal formations you need to consider when setting up your business. So watch that video. It's really good, and it kind of goes hand in hand with this video, because yes, you get your 20 grand and you're going to just spend it, but you know, if you're going to operate as a business, you need to consider that video. But if you're just a normal person and you just manage to have, 20 grand and you just want to buy yourself a buy to let, then this video is great. This video is great for that as well. But also there's other things you wanted to take into consideration, like whether you want to purchase in a limited company or not. Now this one was quite tricky, and it's because I've done so many different strategies. I could see how I could spend that 20 grand quite easily. I really had to sit down and really ask myself, what would you do with 20 grand? You're brand new, you're fresh into property, someone who's got a bit of time, know a bit of stuff about property, just the basics, and ready to put some effort in, right? And usually people are in that bracket. They've got time, effort and money. Now there are free strategies which are really easy to access, and that's things such as rent to rent and serviced accommodation, and even deal sourcing. The income's really good, you can acquire them quite quickly, and it's very short term. So if you want to get in and get out within your 5 years or 3 years or minimum 3 years, then that is perfect for that. It's perfect. But if you're looking for something a little bit more long term, then they are great for that too. But the cons of that is that you don't get to own the property. And I'm an owner person. I like the thought of owning. I like owning. You're making money in different ways. So it's not just about the money that's coming in on a month by month basis, but it's also the capital appreciation. You get to benefit from that too. And that's a lot. That can be a lot, because over 20 years, over 10, 20 years, that property value is doubling. As well as that, the cons with rent to rent is that sometimes the profits aren't worthwhile, and you need at least 2 or 3 to really get that profit going. Because yes, you can make profit on one, of course, but if there's room changeovers or things happening, lots of void periods, you're not really making that much money on these houses. So you need at least 2 to really kind of comfortably start seeing the difference in rent to rent, and making it make a financial difference to your life. So that's another con, which I mean, they're great, but these are just downfalls that I'm looking at as to why I would not take that 20 grand and go and do those. What I would do, however, is take that 20 grand, and there's a number of things I would do. I'd be open to a number of things, okay? Now, one is buy to sell. Right? I would want to partner up with someone who also has some money, and we can go and do a buy to sell together. That money could be enough for a deposit. If your 20 grand is a deposit money and they have another 20 grand to match, and that is renovation costs, then you two can go and get a house together and renovate that home and sell it for a profit. The rest of the money from that house would come from something like a bridging finance, where you take out a loan on the rest of the amount of that house, and renovate the house, increase its value and sell it, and then you both have increased that original money you both came into the deal with. That's one thing I'd do. I'd definitely be open to joint ventures. Another thing I'll do is something called an assisted sale, where someone who's selling their house, for some reason it's struggling to sell on the market, and they're quite easy to find if you know how to source properties. You can find someone who's struggling to sell their house, and then you can spend your 20 grand doing it up, and you both agree that they would get their cut, whatever it be, which you both would need to agree on, and then anything above that, you would both get 50% of that. You can make a lot more on your money than buying a house and going through that whole process, because you're getting your money back so much more quicker. You don't have to go through the solicitors of purchasing the house, and if anybody knows anything, that process can be quite long and drawn out. So you're getting your 20,000, you're finding someone who already owns a house, and you're saying, look, I will spend money doing up your house to get an amazing value, and then we'll share the profits. What do you say? And they'll be up for that. But that might require you to have a relationship with a family member or a friend, or you can go and find them on one of the property protocols that you use to source property in the first place. But it's definitely a good strategy to consider if you want to spend your 20 grand and make money on your money. My number one strategy really would be to buy it, to buy a buy-to-let property, refurb it and refinance it. Now this one would be a little bit tricky because 20 grand's not that much. You really need a house where you can buy it for like 50 grand, 40 grand, and trust me, those houses are out there. But if you can get a house for £50,000 and you put down a deposit of say 30%, you can bridge the rest of that, and then you can also get a loan on your renovation costs. Remember, just because that you have only 20,000, that doesn't mean it limits you on on what property you buy. £20,000 is a lot of money. You can partner with people. Now in this deal, in this recent scenario that I just mentioned, again, someone else can pay for those renovation costs, or you could even get a loan on those costs. Do it up, increase the value, refinance and get that money back. There's so much different ways. And then not only are you left with this house that you've just done up, but you've also managed to refinance, get the money back, pay back the loan, and then you're left with an asset which will go up in value. So there's different ways to do this. If you're someone who's passive and you don't really want to do all the running around, all the endless viewings, especially on a rainy day when it's cold outside and it's winter and it's getting dark at like 4:30, and you do not want to have to be out away from your family, then you can work with people who are willing to do that hard work, and you give them your £20,000 and they offer you a fixed interest rate on your money. And there are people out there like that, people like me, and all you've got to do is couple clicks in your bank account and Bob's your uncle. You're going to get those returns on your money and you're not even doing the running around. Sometimes the returns are even better, because when you're refinancing, it takes you a year or two to get all your money back. But if you're working with someone like that, they can give it back to you after 1 year and you get all that money back, and it ends up being a no-brainer for someone who's working full-time. Their money's sitting in a bank, in the ISA, you're not getting no money, and you're now thinking, how can I make this money work for me? But you don't also have the time to do all that running around that's required to find a good deal. They're a good deal at auctions and everyone screams about them, but you're not always going to get a deal at the auction because there's so many other people there trying to go for the same deal. So it takes effort and commitment and repeated behavior and patterns before you get to secure a deal sometimes. So working with someone who does all of that really does save you time. So if I had 20 grand, that's exactly what I'll do with it. I wouldn't go and do rent to rent. I mean, those are great strategies, but I'm really about ownership and I really want to grow my money as quickly as possible. So I'd want to get in and get out. What would you do if you're 20 grand now knowing this? I mean, I'm curious, what are people doing with their money anyway? There's money sitting in the bank in ISAs. Some people are doing trades, they're doing stocks, some people are investing in gold, diamonds. There's so much different ways to make money on your money. I'm curious, what are you doing? What are you doing? Let's talk about it. Comment down below and let's have a great exchange. Stay tuned for more videos and I'll see you at the top. Take care and thank you for watching. Bye.